Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Goodness. I'll be in charge of sharing the screen for Team Binary tonight. So we'll be presenting. So I think we're ready to kickstart. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adigbenro, team lead for SM, SM lead rather, and I'll be presenting for the SM. Next slide. This is our project mandate and the project goal to create a comprehensive and e-commerce platform for Longreach UK to enable easy online access, sales and distribution of health and beauty products while improving customer engagement and support. The sprint goal: create static homepage for Longreach e-commerce website, and the sprint duration from 027 to 15/7. Next one, please. These are the Scrum ceremonies, the daily stand-up, which takes place at usual time of 9:30. We have the sprint planning, sprint refinement, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. We have the Scrum Masters, Motrayo, Yetunde, Sioma, Adigbenro, Steven, and the lead roles for others. We have Miracle Arocho, SM Adigbenro, BA Ebere, BA Patricia, and PM Faith, Huey Davis. Next, please. Roles of Scrum Masters: facilitate agile ceremonies like daily stand-up, sprint planning, sprint review, retrospective, backlog refinement, and ensuring they are kept within time box. Support the team, escalate impediments, develop the SharePoint that was not meant to be there, update our team charter. Next, please. Definition. This is the definition of ready and definition of done, as listed here. Next, please. And this is the team charter. It has been reviewed and updated. Next, please. We have the team members as well. Then these are key deliverables for the project. This project deliverables which included the fully functional e-commerce website, integrated payment and logistics systems, user account management and other tracking systems, customer support portal, content management systems, marketing tools and integration, staff training materials and sessions. Next slide, please. Then the PABI is committed during the sprint. We have 5 of them, and a total of 5 PBI altogether were committed by the sprint members. Some other PBIs, including career development tasks, were added on board. Next, please. And this shows the dashboard of the velocity chart, also the burn-down chart, and the capacity team backlog items as well. Next, please. We have the chart team task for Scrum Masters, which include the registration and Chatham sites, create a group and add members, chat with members, team members on Chatham, create blog and Chathams, create questions and answers, and on the Azure board, create a swim lane for career development. Also to create CV creation, the epics for CV creation, job application, mind map, professional summary, training document. Next, please. This is just a snapshot of the team binary on Chatham sites, where we have other groups too, and partly the group users too under the team binary. Next one, please. These are the users on the Chatham site, a snapshot of various users. Next, please. These are also users on the Chatham site, individuals, apart from the one for the group. Next, please. Chatham's questions which were given to Scrum Masters. We had a total of 10 for Scrum Masters. I explained how Azure DevOps is set up. We have the Scrum and Agile methodology, among others, like how do SM facilitate communication between members and stakeholders and between difficult product owners. We have a total of 10, with the last one being that how do you handle changes to Scrum backlog?
1 minute left.
Next, please. We have also the team's backlog snapshot of the Azure DevOps board and the swim lane created. Next, please. And the team's capacity and sprint on the snapshot on the board too as well. Next, please. We also have screenshot of teams board showing different swim lanes on the Azure DevOps board board. Next, please. Then the impediments we had limited access as the SM lead to the Azure board. limited functions on Chatham's site, delay in response to issues escalated, developer unable to get credentials on time for the development, and the mitigation process followed was escalated to the ADM, escalated to stakeholders, collaboration among team and self-development. Next, please. And the lessons learned: effective board management, facilitating agile ceremonies, supporting the team, stakeholders engagement, team charter transformation. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Oluwatodun Fekadoshu. I'm the PM lead for Sprint 3. Next slide. So from this table, we can see the active and the inactive team members. On the left, we can see the active members. Everybody was active except from 2. Next slide. So for the agenda for today, I'm going to talk about the attendance tracker, the roadmap, the stakeholder analysis, the weekly training we have, the tools we used, and our meetings. Next slide. So here's a screenshot of the attendance tracker. The ones in red are people who are inactive, and the ones in white are people who are active. Next slide. Yeah, this is a continuation of the attendance tracker. Next slide, please. So from this, we decided to do a visualization using the attendance tracker. The deep blue means the person has been active the most, while the ones in deep red means the person has been inactive. On the right, we can also see the person who's been the most active, and also the bottom 3 people who have been the least active. Next slide. So we had during one of our meetings with our mentors, he told us the first thing we have to do was create a roadmap, which is what we've done. And it shows the header, the banner, and the footer will be created from ending of June to the end of July, while the authentication, the top menu, and the logo will be created from July to mid-July. Next slide, please. So this is a stakeholder analysis that we decided to create. It shows who's going to have the most influence and who's going to have the interests. Next slide, please. So this is what we learned during our weekly training with our trainer. Sorry, can you go back, please? Yeah. So during the first week of the sprint, we learned about constraints, which is a barrier or limitation. We also learned about risk and the 5 steps in risk management. Next slide, please. Just this last week, we learned about project planning and project scheduling. And with that, the tool we used to create that was a Gantt chart. Next slide. And this is an example of a project schedule that we use using our Gantt chart. It shows the relationship on the right. Next slide, please. So the software we used during this sprint was Visio, Microsoft Project, Miro, and Excel. Next slide. And during this sprint, we had our daily stand-up, the CV writing, the pastoral care, and the other learning opportunities we had from Blue Sky Management. Next slide. The challenges we had was we didn't really have access to our mentors, and we had some time flexibility with some of our team members. Thank you, that's all. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Okewo Mabo. I'm the ADM lead for the sprint. Next slide. Yeah, this slide is showing our agenda for this sprint, from the introduction down to documents, self-development. Oh, next slide. All right, for the introduction, as an ADM, we ensure the team develop their project on time. Then we ensure the project meets both the POs and the customer's expectation. Next slide. Our contribution for the sprint. We follow the project closely to make sure the project is going on well. And we follow up with the other roles in the team to make sure to see if there are any impediments, and if there are any, we develop plans, mitigation plans for them. And also we communicate with the developer to know how far they've gone with the project and to see if there are any corrections. Next slide. Then, okay, what was done in the sprint? For Team Agile, 30 PBIs were planned, 30 were committed, 29 PBIs were completed, and 1 failed the QA test, which will be moved to the for the sprint. And for team binary, 26 PBIs were planned, 5 were committed, and none was completed. And that's because of the pending issue we had with our developer. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the Gantt chart for Team Agile. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the continuation for the Gantt chart for Team Agile. Next slide, please. Yeah, this slide is showing the impediment log for Team Binary. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is the screenshot of the chat we had with our developer. Next slide, please. Yeah, this slide is showing the group created by Team Binary. Next slide, please. Yeah, our constraints. All right. We the first issue we had was we didn't get to know our developer on time, which really costed us because we couldn't get them ready before the sprint planning. And the second issue, we one URL was given to both teams to work on, which caused a big problem for Team Binary because Team Agile's developer had already started work and it was escalated, but yet to be resolved. Next slide, please. All right, lesson learned. Yeah, what we learned from we had good, like the good side and the negative side. All right, for the good side, there was good communication between all team members, both Team Binary and Team Agile. Then for the negative part, we felt we could have done better in getting to know our developers like before sprint planning. Next slide, please. Yeah, the self-development. During the course of the training, Ayo, our tutor, he taught us the following: constraint, issue and risk, project planning, and he gave us some tasks. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is one of the tasks given to us by Ayo. Next slide, please. Then he also helped us with creating Gantt charts with the help of Microsoft Project. Next slide, please. All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia, and I'm the VA lead for the sprint. I'll be ending the presentation this evening. Next slide. So these are the active members who have been contributing so much to the task this spring. Next slide. So these are key meetings. We had different meetings, some with our PO, some with our mentors, and we had various meetings with our mentors this sprint. We learned a lot from them. We had our Excel training, our requirements, and approval session with our PO. Next slide. So the goal for the Longreach website was to create a website. So Longreach has been operating but had no website. So now they want to reach out to more customers and improve their sales. So we needed to create an e-commerce website for them. However, the specific goal for Sprint 3 was to create a static homepage and showing the header, the footer, and the banner. Next slide. So this was the mind map we created to show our journey. We can see the epics, the future, and the PBIs on this mind map. Next slide. So these are some of the PBIs we created. We did. We had about 5 committers to sprint, so we wanted to commit more. But unfortunately, the developers did not have capacity for that as they had some impediments, and they were unable to start on the ones that were already committed to sprints. Next slide. These are still some of the PBIs we created. Next slide. So these are some of the user stories and acceptance criteria we created. Next slide. So one of the user stories was on the footer. So we can see the description, we can see the acceptance criteria, and we have our wireframe giving a pictorial description of what we want the developers to do. The next slide. This is another user story showing the logo and the description and acceptance criteria, all the requirements we want to be fulfilled in development. And this is our wireframe showing also a pictorial representation of what we are describing in our acceptance criteria and user story. Next slide. So these are the PBI's futures and epics for next sprint. So the goal for next sprint is to automate everything we've done in sprint 3 and make sure everything is clickable. So next slide. This is the use case diagram for the long reach e-commerce website, showing the interaction between the user and the admin. Next slide. These are stakeholder matrix. We identified all our stakeholders, their interests and their power, identifying the ones that we have to keep informed, the ones we have to watch closely, identifying those that had more power, low interest, high power, and the likes. Next slide. So we had different documents that we worked on this sprint, and our glossary was one of them. It just gave a brief description of what all the documents entailed. We worked on the user journey map, the stakeholder map, racing matrix, initiation documents, business requirement documents, functional requirement documents. Next slide. So this continuation of the glossary. Next slide. So this is the project initiation document. Basically, it showed a brief description of what the project is, what's in scope and what is out of scope, a brief description of just what the project is all about. Next slide. Continuation of the project initiation document. Next slide. The business requirement document delve deeper to give more information about the project. Where are we currently and what is our proposed plan? What's in scope, what is out of scope? What are the functional requirements? What are the non-functional requirements? What are the impediments and where do we go from here? Next slide. Continuation of the business requirement document. Next slide. Next slide. Basic matrix with responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Next slide. Functional requirement document. Next slide. Next slide. The requirement traceability, definition of done and ready. So when the developers are done, when the developers are done, this will be the standards to show how we are going to test what they've done to make sure they fulfill all our requirements. Next slide. Contributions we all made as a team, and we did really well this sprint. Next slide. The lessons learned, better adaptation, improving discussion, relevant questions, active listening, and identifying impediments. Next slide. So these are the tools we use: Balsamiq, Draw.io, Visio, Azure DevOps, Microsoft Suite, Office 365, and so. Next slide. And finally, these are the queries for the PBIs we created. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Davis. I'm the QA lead for Sprint 3. I'm presenting for Team Binary. Next slide. Here, these are a list of team members who has contributed tirelessly to our success in this sprint. Next slide. Yeah, in this sprint, we were meant to be testing the long reach websites projects given, but unfortunately there were little delays on the side of the developers and probably the management, so which is being sorted out, I believe. So, but while that is going on, we had other things we treated, like Selectors Hub. Selectors Hub as one of those tools that helps us to generate some locators, generate various locators like experts, CSS selectors, and the rest. Next slide. So these are the various steps to download and install the Selectors Hub before it's being used. Next slide. Yes, so here it's confirming if the Selectors Hub is successfully installed in our system. Next slide. So while we automate our projects, these are part of the things we do, getting our NuGet packages, like you can see on the left. And NuGet packages are these packages that we need to be able to automate or to run our automation testing. Next slide. So we were able to run automation tests on two two websites in this sprint, the prep major sign-up page, and the other one is the Mentors Kit sign-up page. Next slide. So here we are trying to inspect the sign-up icon on the prep major website. We're trying to inspect it. Next slide. And when we click on inspect, or when we inspect, it brings us to the DOM containing the sign up icon codes, where we pick what we want to put in our page objects. And we also have the navigation bar to the selectors hub, as you can see there. Next slide. So you see, when we select the navigation, when we select the selectors hub bar, it gives us the various locators depending on the one we want to pick. You have the expert, the JS part, you have the CSS selector, and the rest. Next slide. So here is what our page objects looks like when we have selected the various locators that we want to use. Here we have chosen CSS selector to use all through. And these page objects, what it helps us to do is to promote a structured approach to organize codes and make it easy to manage and update test cases as the application is evolving. Next slide. Yeah, here's our base test, and this is what it looks like when we have
1 minute left.
When we put in all the code. Next slides. Here's our sign up page, what it looks like also. Next slide. We also have our step definition for that. Next slide. And then here are the various tools and test environments we've used through this sprint journey. Next slide. And then here is the PBIs we had for the sprints, which we've been able to write the test cases within, depending on when they are developed. And then we carry out our test on them. Next slide. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ola Banji, the team lead for the data analyst team binary sprint 3, and I'll be presenting the activities of we data analysts in sprint 3. Next slide, please. These are the list of all members. All members are active, although one of us in the person of Muslima have not been present in classes due to the issue of power supply from our end, but she has always been taking part in all tasks after watching the recorded classes we had. In sprint 3, we continue using the Power BI, Tableau, SQL, and Excel to perform various data analysis tasks. Next slide, please. Using Power BI, we analyze the adventure work still data. And here is a screenshot showing the relationship among all the tables, both one-to-many and many-to-many relationship. Next slide, please. This also shows the relationship between the tables. In the course of running the analysis, we found out that many-to-many relationship cause inaccuracy in the salesperson table figures, which we plan to correct using the DAX calculations. Next slide, please. And another tool we use is also a Tableau. By setting parameters, we identify companies that met criteria for investment. We also analyze data to advise our organization on companies to invest in. Next slide, please. Yeah, this shows the visualization of performances of company. Our team created various visualizations using Tableau to illustrate the performance of companies, and here has some visualization created by 2 team members. Next slide, please. This is also another visualization by another team member showing the performances of companies for investment decision. Next slide, please. This is another one. Next slide, please. Another visualization. Next slide. Also, we work on Excel. In Excel, we focus on using XLOOKUP for searching ranges and arrays, and the if function for conditional logic. We also use this function to check eligibility for receiving award, based on reading frequency. Next slide, please. Yeah, we also combine the if and or function to create more complex logic. Next slide. This is another screenshot. During the Excel, we also exploit text functions such as find. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is also showing the find slash substitute and the joint. Next slide, please. This is another screenshot worked on by a team member using the concat query. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you so much for listening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. My name is Omote Osakralabu, and I am the SM lead for Sprint 3. And I'll be the one sharing the slide for the sprint for all those team members too. So let me start my section by talking about the Scrum Masters here. So we have Miracle as our ADM. As I've said earlier, I'm the SM lead. Then we have Timmy for the BA lead, Omomi for the PM lead, Simon for the QA lead, and Sarah Labi for the DA lead. Then these are the contents of what we have packed up together. Then these are the active Scrum Masters. That's me at the beginning, Olabumi, and Bukola David. Then these are our Sprint 3 goals. This was our primary objective, which was to develop a static homepage for the Long Reach Way e-commerce website, and we delivered the header, footer, banner section of the homepage. Also, the secondary focus was also to commit and complete the remaining tasks for the SharePoint project and create career development swim lane for individual tasks. So this was how we utilized our team. We shared our duties accordingly. So it was a balanced effort between the Long Reach SharePoint projects and between the developers, and we shared it amongst everybody. Everybody was on deck. All hands were on deck. So this is our metrics and progress, which showed our commitment and the deliverables. We planned 43 PBIs were committed, 30 Long Reach project PBIs, then 13 SharePoint project PBIs. Then we delivered 29 PBIs, we completed it, and 97 delivered for the Long Reach project. 8 PBIs were completed and 62 delivered for the SharePoint. Then our plan for the uncompleted PBIs was 1 uncompleted PBI, which was committed for this sprint. Then our SharePoint project, 5 uncompleted PBIs, which were committed for this sprint. And our constraints were delay in our resource accesses, delay in QA teams' ability to start testing, and the uncompleted PBIs will be carried onto the next sprint with a focus to completing the QA testing. So this is what our capacity planning looks like. And this is what the bound down chart looks like. That's our velocity and cumulative flow diagram. Then this is the static Long Reach website, which we created. As you can see the logo, the header, and the footer right there. Then we have the demo of the Long Reach also, which this is the footer section. Then this is the training videos, training materials, and the job listings. Then this is the demo for the footer also, the deliverable ones. Then this is also the document library for the deliverables of the demo sharing point project. Then this we have the tagline and the project name, which is very, very visible right there. Then we have the career development swim lane. Then these were our challenges: late start of development leading to the delay of the QA testing. Then resolved it by escalating the issues to the ADM. We complemented the revised timeline to maximize availability of time and resources, which definitely clearly defined our priorities levels, and we made use of our resources that was allocated for each project. Also, the QA team collaborated to prioritize critical test cases. So also this was what went well, what didn't go well, and actions which need to be taken for the next sprint. Also, lessons learned, we ensured to always use our necessary resources and assets required during the sprint, which begins which the beginning is very crucial. We also, our action is to be proactively assess the resources with all team members before we start any future sprints. Then our team collaboration, everybody were on deck. That's the Scrum Masters, the BA, and the QAs, and also the developers. Action will continue to promote a
1 minute left.
We will continue to promote a collaborative environment and encourage team members to support each other throughout the sprint. Then these are our acknowledgements for developing the PBIs and so on. And our summary was Sprint 3 focused on delivering key components of the Long Reach Way Home project while progressing on the SharePoint project. And despite the initial delays, we met our deliverables and adapted effectively. Thank you so much. And this is the next step, continue additional homepage, and right on with that for our next page. And thank you for listening. We have the next person, please.
Hello, good
Temi.
evening. Yes, thank you, Theosi. Hello, good evening. I'm Temi and I'm the BA lead for Sprint 3. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick snap of our agenda for this evening. Next slide, please. And here we are members of the team and the various meetings and collaborations, trainings we had during the sprint. So we actively participated in the daily stand-ups, and as a team, we had our own individual daily stand-ups and also with the team agile stand-ups. We had career development and pastoral care sessions, sprint refinement, planning review and retrospective meetings, Microsoft training on Excel, continuation of that. And we also had regular meetings with our mentors and the product owner, and also ad hoc meetings as required. Next slide, please. So here is a mandate for the Long Reach Way e-commerce development project, which is the goal for this sprint. And here we can see the purpose, the objectives, the key deliverables, and the expected outcomes for this project, and also our role as business analysts, which is to elicit, capture, document, and communicate requirements to the Agile team developers in order to ensure the successful delivery of the project deliverables. And on also that slide, I have a screenshot of the project mandate, which we have from the PO. Next slide, please. So to have a better understanding of our goal for this sprint, we came up with an understanding of what our deliverables were, which was the header, the footer, and the banner, and in that order of priority. And we also came together to have our definition of ready, definition of done, just to understand when we were ready to commit our stories and the criteria to be met when our stories have been tested, UAT tested, and in done. Next slide, please. And also as a team, we came up with a mind map of our project requirements. This was just to give us a good understanding of what was expected of us. So here you can see the various sections and also the branches with regards to the icons and buttons required on the website. Next slide, please. And also to foster our understanding of the requirements, we had to do some research, trying to benchmark what was expected from us. So here we had two major websites, the Holland & Barrett and the Boots website, and just to understand what the functionalities were, what the buttons look like, and how we could actually put our own wireframe together. And on the next slide, next slide, please. We're able to come up with our wireframe for the Long Reach Way website homepage. Here you can see the different buttons, the different sections highlighted, the header, the banner, and the footer. And this was duly approved by our PO. And on the next slide, we've got extracts of our PBI from the Azure board. Subsequently, after we had looked at our requirements, we put together our board just to ensure we had captured all the requirements, and the team sprang into action, writing our user stories. So on the left there, on the right, I beg your pardon, you can see just two screenshots of PBIs written by members of the team. Next slide, please. And also, this is an overview of our dashboard while in the sprint. So we had some stories in approved, which we are still moving on, and then our QA done, and also we had stories we had moved into done. This is just to understand the status of our board. Next slide, please. So here is a quick analysis of our PBI for this sprint. So for the Long Reach Way project, we set out, we wrote 34 stories, we approved
1 minute left.
and we committed 30. And for, we identified bugs and we decided we were going to move some unapproved and uncommitted stories into the next sprint. Next slide, please. As part of our task, we had to develop a glossary, which you can see here, which has helped us a better understanding of our terms. Next slide, please. And we also had a career development task, and which we have been mandated to create our CVs, professional statement, summary, and the Chatham's task. And in preparing for the next sprint, we have begun our requirement elicitation. We have updated our Azure DevOps board. We have some PBIs in BA and BA done, currently eliciting. Next slide, please. And also to help us understand the functionalities, we went ahead to do a user login process map just to have a better understanding of the functionality of one of our requirements. Next slide, please. For this sprint, the impediments were basically delay in obtaining the site credentials by the developers, difficulties we had as a team meetings, and going forward. Next slide, and these are the tools that we use during this project. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Omomi Adile. I'm the PM lead for the sprints, and these are the names of our team members: Onome, myself, Olufunke Fasisi, Catherine, and Lua Bumi. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the tasks completed for the sprint. We were taking the daily attendance for the GSU meetings and the creation of swim lane for career development with the BAs and SMs on Azure board. We created a group for the team members alongside with the SMs using the Chatham Chatham's website, and also attended sprint refinement and career development sessions. Next slide, please. These are the individual tasks for each member of our team. Myself, and I liaise with the SMs, getting DA's requirement for completion of data. Olufunke attended the Dynamics 365 workshop, and also Catherine was attending the DSU meeting, taking attendance, and also attended the requirements, and same with Onome, supporting them and monitoring attendance records, which Babumi also was did requirements gathering on elucidation and management, creating the sprint report. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the active members for the sprints, and the highlighted ones they are also active to some extent, which we spoke with the team role for that department, and they are going to do a follow-up on that, which they said they will get back to us. Thank you. Next slide. Yes, these are the tools that we used for the sprints, for the sprint, which is Visio and MS Project. We also use MS Project during our session in the project management class, and also did a presentation on 9 and 10 chapter on the brilliant project management book. And as well, we were given a task by I think by Deji, to create a Chatham website with the SMs, and we created that for the group, which we will be presenting for our next task, which is presentation. We need to create a website for each for a group, and as well for the individual to answer and to ask and answer questions for the presentation for our next task. Next slide. So this is management, one of the during our training session with our PM trainer, which is project risk management is the process of identifying, analyzing, and responding to any risk that arises over the life cycle project to help the project remain on track and to meet the goals. And what we need to do is prepare for risk management, which is to determine categories, also to define the parameters like an impact. So in terms of the risk
1
management
minute
plan
left.
at the beginning, as a project manager, management. The next slide, please. Next slide, and yeah, that which is identifying, analyzing. We need to identify, classify them, the parameters, make sure we document them, plan to mitigate risk and assign and monitor it. Next slide, please. Risk identified in three one of the risk impact and mitigation related resource access and availability, which is the cost related development and QA activities impacting timeliness. Next slide. This is the risk management process, and it's to monitor and
Time's
control
up.
plan. Next slide, please. This is the issue management plan process. Next slide. Yes, this is chapter 9 of the project management chapter book, which is for a project to be productive. Mistakes are bound to happen, but when we repeat, managing the product isn't about just avoiding mistakes. It's just to make sure it doesn't happen again and to work towards it. The next slide, please. So yeah, creating a project management knows lessons learned are always well worth pursuing. Next slide. Yes, this is the chapter 10. To be a project manager, have an excellent understanding of management techniques and attitude for dealing with people and a commitment to continuous improvement. Next slide. Yep, this is the last part of it, to develop good attitude, leading by example and getting the best out of everyone. Next slide. Thank you.
Simone, are you there?
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. So my name's Simone. I'm the QA lead for this sprint. Next slide, please. So as this is a new project, we decided to create a new test plan and test strategy. Next slide, please. So this project aims to develop an e-commerce platform that provides a user-friendly interface for customers. However, as you know, in the sprint, this was a static website, which means it's non-functionable. Some types of testing we expect to cover whilst developing this project will be like wireframe testing, functional and behavioral testing. Next slide, please. So this will be the test strategy for Long Reach Way project. Next slide, please. So our approach to testing will include, or did include, designing test cases with the use of user stories and acceptance criteria to help us enable manual testing. Next slide, please. So this is our test strategy continued, which includes the test environment, testing tools, and release control. Next slide, please. So this is the copy of our Azure board. And this is basically the last user story that failed UAT testing. And I had to raise a bug for this because it was at the end of the sprint. So we weren't able to actually complete the process. This will be carried over to the next sprint. Next slide, please. So this is just a few samples of our test cases. Next slide, please. So this is the test summary report for the Long Reach Way project. So we've committed 3 user stories Total number of bugs found was 2. The status of bugs, one's currently open, which was shown in the previous slide, and 1 closed. The pass percentage prior to bug fix is 93.3%. Pass percentage post-bug fix, 96.7%. Next slide, please. So this is just a bar chart confirming the previous slide. Next slide, please. This is our test environment. So we used a Longreach Way website to test, Visual Studio is to do automation testing, and obviously the Azure DevOps to manage the bug lifestyle. Next slide, please. So though this project is a non-functioning project, we still decided to go ahead and use assertions to test the actual functionality of the web page to see if it was accessible. Next slide, please. And this is another team member that also tried the same thing. Next slide, please. So as you know, in the development process of Longreach Way it was delayed. So we decided to continue to do the SharePoint project at the same time. So we committed 15 user stories. However, because the Longreach Way project was the prioritization at this time, we decided to only do 10 user stories, of which I allocated 1 user story to each of our team members. So there was 2 bugs found, and the status of bugs closed were 2. So the pass percentage was 100%. Next slide, please. And that is all. Thank you.
Sarah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'll be doing the presentation for the DA for Sprint 3. Next slide, please. This is the contents. These are the contents. This is what we'll be doing for this presentation. Next slide. Introduction. As we, the DA, continue to improve our analytics skills using the essential tools such as Excel, Power BI, Tableau, and SQL. In addition to this skill development, we are assigned a task to collate and analyze data for the sprints. Next slide, please. Yeah, we are 4 members of the team, and all of us are active, but one of us was not feeling too well, so you won't be seeing this presentation on this slide. Next slide, please. Yes, as I said, this was the tools we use. Next slide, please. These are the topics, these are the things we taught on. On SQL, we taught join and type of join. Excel, we taught XLOOKUP, if and the ifs function. Tableau, we taught how to use parameter. We created an interactive dashboard. On Power BI, we taught data modeling, showing relationship between tables, creating of hierarchies, and the formatting of data. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the type of join. Sorry, I won't be going to details because of the time duration, but my boss is going to do justice with the explanation. This is the inner join, a screenshot of an inner join. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a diagram of a left join. At the right, these are how we put in the queries. My team and I walked through this, and this is a diagram showing the right join, and this is how we put in the queries. And we found that by our tutor saying we should learn to use the left join instead of the right join. And when doing the research with the team, we also found out that the left join is better than using the right join. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yes, the continuation of the SQL join. This is the full join, and we have the cross join. There are some other type of join, but just because of the time limits, I couldn't fit them here. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are tasks we did on Excel. I can say me and my team, we know how to use this effortlessly because we practiced every day. This is the code, the entry, if you check the right-hand side, that we use in doing this. Next slide, please. And this is what I love most. We love most using the if statement. We know how to use the if statement, and or function. We also know how to do the average count, average if, count if, and all of that. Because of the time, we could not put everything, but this is what we did. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the tax done on Tableau. This is the tax done by me. Yeah, I was comparing the profits and the expenses of the industry made in 2013 and that of 2014. My analysis will be based on on the Haiti. In 2013, we found out that the Haiti made more profits than that of 2014. For the expenses in 2014, we found that the Haiti incurred more expenses, meaning that's why they didn't make more profits. That's our conclusion on that. Next slide, please. Yes, my colleague Paradise was trying to, she did an analysis on company that our clients can potentially invest on using the data for 2015. Analysis was based on growth of the company. And if you check down below, you'll see 4 companies that can be able for you to potentially invest on. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, this is an interactive dashboard. Like Adolisa was trying to see company performance and growth. And this dashboard, if you look at it, it's used with parameter and users can interact with the dashboard. This is a screenshot of our work. Next slide, please.
1 minute left.
Yeah, this is our data modeling done on Power BI, showing the relations between data. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a tax done in the sprint. The PBI is committed by data by Adolisa. The test case done by the QA was 36. Next slide, please. And the user story done by the BAs was 44. Next slide, please. This is also count of the BBIs committed. This is a work done by Paradise, one of my colleagues. And as you can see, 3 were closed and others were designed. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the attendance of the sprints for sprint 3. Yes, all of us were active. We did our best. As you can see at the side is a circle chart for the sprints. 11 of the BAs were active, 4 of the DAs were active, 5 of the PMs were active, and 11 of the QAs were active, 3 of the XMs were active. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Juliet, are you there?